is our history. Buildings and people and memories and dreams. Who better to tell us than those who were there? There's so much to learn from the stories they'll share. Living history. Living history.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Living History with Ted Goldsboro, and our guest today, Christina Anderson, the granddaughter of Chief Anderson, who became famous as the instructor of the Tuskegee Airmen during World War II. And Christina and I are going to be talking about Chief Anderson's, C. Alfred Anderson's, living in Bryn Mawr, and what schools he went to, and then he married a local girl who grew up in Ardmore, and talking about when she graduated, and then we'll talk about events that are happening at the present time. Christina, welcome to Lower Merion. Christina and I met because she saw on the Lower Merion Historical Society website that we had history thing, and she's interested in getting more information on her grandfather. So she came up with a bunch of people in the car all the way from Georgia, where she lives, and she's just visiting here now. And the Historical Society helped her a bit. That was a year ago. It was in April of 2013.
Yes.
And this is her second trip back. And she's been working with Doug Young of the Lower Merion School District and trying to get some kids involved in community service projects.
Yes.
And Christina, it's time for you to start talking a little bit. Should we start with your grandparents?
Absolutely. Yeah, we
All
can
right.
start.
Thank you.
There.
Christina's grandmother was named Gertrude Nelson.
Yes.
And she graduated from Lower Merion in the class of 1927. And from the Historical Society point of view, 1927 is an interesting class because it was the first year that Lower Merion High School had yearbooks and the first year that we had a student newspaper. So we didn't go back any further, like 1926 and 25 don't have those things. So it was a good class. And fortunately, Anna O'Hora, who works at the school district in Doug Young's office, was able to find a 1927 yearbook. And there's a picture of Gert Nelson. And it tells how vivacious she is and what a good worker she is and so friendly and everything. Could you read?
I would like to read that. And it's so interesting. In this picture, I look like her, and we have the same hairstyle. So that's interesting. Let's see. Gert Nelson, the very personification of neatness and precision. If you doubt our word, all such doubt will vanish when you look at her handwriting. Gert is likewise forever seen with quantities of books, but we have not mentioned the kind of book she most desires. At any rate, we're safe in saying that it isn't Comus or Sir Roger de Coverley papers. In addition to her craving for books, she is exceedingly popular and finds time for innumerable dances at New York.
And I wonder about that.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about the New York connection?
I don't know about the New York connection, but I can tell you this. We just recently, this past summer, did a 5-day excavation of my grandparents' home, where because we're have some plans about what we want to do with it, and we decided to go in and move out all of Grandma and Grandpa's stuff for reasons, and we found several, I don't know what you want to call them, gigantic ledgers. They're about yay wide, yay thick, because my grandparents ran several businesses on top of all the aviation, and my grandmother kept all the books. She was a human calculator, human computer. These are records from the 40s, 50s, 60s, some in the 30s, And literally, her penmanship, it almost looked like text from a computer of today, her writing. So when I read that, and her computation of numbers, unbelievable. So when I read that, I'm like, wow, that was her to the end.
They saw it even when she was 17, 18 years
that was her.
old.
And they had scores of books, hundreds of books. So that just completely explained her.
There were lots of Nelsons that attended the Lower Merion schools. Do you know if she had brothers and sisters?
Yes, she did have brothers and sisters. I don't know much about them. Through the biography of Chief Anderson that I'm currently working on, I do plan to really dig deep into their history. We know for a fact Chief Anderson was an only child. That's a fact.
Okay.
But we do know for a fact, too, that Gertrude had siblings.
Okay.
And so we definitely want to research that and find out more about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
There was a woman, and this is her married name, Cleopatra Nelson. And unfortunately, I forget her husband's name. I'm sure that our audience, they'll say, oh, that was so-and-so Nelson. But they were quite well known in Lower Merion. They stayed here. And so I often think of Cleopatra Nelson, but she's not listed in the Nelsons in our commencement programs. Now, because she lived on Holland Avenue in Ardmore, one would assume that she went to the Ardmore Avenue School, but the transcripts for the school district only show 4 years of high school. They don't show elementary school. So we're not sure whether she grew up here in Ardmore or not.
Right.
And there's another interesting thing. What about her parents?
I believe her father's name was George. I'm not sure. I have a picture of her father. Two pictures of her father. A young, which I don't have today, but a young picture and an older picture. I've never seen an image of her mother. And I was told her father was a farmer, and that's all I know.
Now, when she was at Lower Merion, the transcript tells whom she was living with, and it says guardian.
Right. Charles T. Hall.
Charles T. Hall, and
makes no sense to me.
Okay. I just wanted
another mystery for the book.
Yeah, right.
Yes.
And when I went to an atlas from 1913 and 1920, and I looked at 82 Holland Avenue, which was the address that she's listed, it shows that the property was owned by a family named Cotter, C-O-T-T-E-R, and there were Cotters in Narberth. So perhaps Mr. Hall rented from Mr. Carter.
Probably.
So we got a mystery.
Yes, we do.
All right.
Yes, we do.
Now it's time to move over to see Alfred Anderson. They call him Charles, but did he go by, before he was chief, what was he?
Well, his full name is Charles Alfred Anderson Sr. That's his full name.
Okay.
He had a junior, so the senior popped on after Dad was born.
What did he go by?
He went by, before he became Chief Anderson, he went by Al. And the story is that there is a local criminal in the area with his exact same name. And he was getting confused. The law was confusing him with this bad guy, who I don't know what the bad guy was doing. Yeah. And so my grandfather, I think in the 15s or teens, 19 teens, dropped Charles completely. Never went by ever, and
went by Alfred.
He went by Al.
Okay.
Al.
Now he was born in 1907, February the 9th, I believe. So we're coming pretty close to a birthday for him.
Yes.
Because this is mid-January. We do have his public school records, thanks to Anna O'Hora in the school district. And we believe, because he lived in Bryn Mawr, we believe he went to the Bryn Mawr Grammar School. General Beckton corrected me. I used to say Bryn Mawr Elementary. He said, no, it's Grammar School.
All right.
But we do have his transcript, and it says that his father, Iverson, was a laborer.
Yes.
And that's kind of interesting because we knew him as a
Coachman.
a man who drove vehicles.
Yes.
Maybe a chauffeur
Yes.
later on.
Yes.
And I wanted to just, we got to watch our time here. We're coming up on a break, but I did want to mention an interesting thing that was happening in the school district. The old Bryn Mawr school, we think, was built around 1870, and we have 2 pictures of that.
Okay.
And then in 1914, and this is just about the time that your grandfather was in school.
Yeah.
A new school was built called Bryn Mawr Grammar School.
Okay.
And this building still exists. It's
Yes,
now
it
part
does.
of Bryn Mawr Hospital. But he probably was in that shift. Like he probably started at this
there.
school and then ended up at this school. The school district records don't show that he graduated. And we think maybe it wasn't too unusual for people to stop after 8th grade before you went into high school.
Right.
So perhaps he did that, or he went to another school district.
Right. And Doug, when I talked to Doug about that, he told me that during that time frame, they did not keep double records at the school. And he said that if families left or
That's right.
if they, because I know he spent some time in Virginia with his grandmother, he said they could take their records with them
Right.
and go. Or he said, or
Yes.
even if they graduated, they could take their records with them,
Right.
and they did not have duplicates.
Okay.
So he said we honestly can't say that he did or didn't because there were no
Good.
records that
Yes.
they kept duplicates of.
I've heard of this.
Yeah.
Like you go to the school, you're moving. You go to the school, they give you what
Right.
they call a transcript,
Yeah.
and then you take that transcript to
Yeah.
another school.
He said they did
and
not
I bet
keep
that's what
records
he
back
did.
then.
Yeah. Now, when he, let me see, about how old, no, I'm getting confused. His father, Alfred's father,
Iverson.
Iverson, worked as a coachman, and we're going to get back to that because we got to take a break now.
Okay.
And we'll be back after this break, and we'll talk about Chief Anderson's father. This is Ted Goldsboro with Living History, and we're talking to Christina Anderson.